7 or 8 million men have checked out. They don't want a family. They don't want a girlfriend. They don't want a wife. They don't want a job. They want nothing. I go, that's just men. Okay, well, then that's 8 million men that are not available for women to have. Women go, I can't find a man. Well, because 8 million checked out. There's just not enough men for you. Of course you can't find a man. But I'm not even done. You look at things like single parent households. Of all households with kids of 18 years or under in the household, almost a third are single parent. Are we happy? The average marriage in America lasts 8 years. Marriage rates are going down. Yes. About 40% of all children in America are born out of wedlock. We are not happy. We're not getting money. We're not getting relationships. We're not getting careers. We're not good with our health care. And people go, but what about Ukraine or Israel or in the EU or whatever? And you wonder why people are like, let Trump go. And why when the Democratic Party is dancing on TikTok, people go, wait a minute, what is going on? Joel says, Big Pharma pays better than Big Tallow. People sometimes tease me and they say, Larry, why do you keep running? Why do you keep doing this? And I say, because I'm an ideologue. I say, what? Do you think people haven't tempted me to sell out? All the time. Do you think the Republican Party in New York State wouldn't love to have me on their team? Of course they would. Do you think people haven't tried to get me to sell out? Of course they have. Why don't I? Because I'm an ideologue. I'm pushing something, right? The other guy you see right next to me, RFK Jr., he's an ideologue. Sometimes you need those people. Sometimes you're a person who's just a damn true believer who will push through all the garbage. Why do you think so many people run one time and then never run again? But when I'm pointing at myself, why does this idiot keep running? Why do I keep trying? Because I'm an ideologue. So yes, Big Pharma pays better than Big Tallow, but he didn't care. So he thought, I'll get them to pay me a different way. I'll sue them. Now I wish I could do that. I tried suing, didn't work. So maybe I need him as my lawyer. Oh my God, if we get rid of the DOE, it's not working in any way, shape, or form. The federal DOE is not only not working, it is actively harming our children. More money is not the answer. Not the answer. And I'm showing this with New York State. New York State spends those. By the way, with the exception of Luxembourg, Luxembourg's an exception. So in Luxembourg, the United States spends the most on education in the entire world. The most, number one. Number two, I don't count Luxembourg, it's like 9 people. And remember Trump was saying how we rank like 40th, it's exaggerated. We ranked like 20 something, 34th I think, out of 81. We ranked 34th out of 81. 34th out of 81, we spend the most money. Yes. Look at fact, we paid $5. I read something that said before the DOE, we were number 1 in it, and now we're like 40 something, with riddance as far as concerned. That's actually not accurate. That's Trump doing his exaggeration as well. It's not true. We couldn't be number 1 before DOE. They didn't really rank much then, right? It's tough to rank when there's nothing to rank. There's a difference between K through 12 and college, right? When it comes to college, America has been doing very well for many years. That's true. Our K through 12 has been garbage for many years. The problem is when they say education, they mix in college. And when you mix in college, you do really well. When you just do K through 12, holy crap, do we suck. You might say, Larry, how can you say we suck? Okay, hold on, I'm gonna show you something. This is literacy rates within the country. What are red ones? Oh, those red ones, as you see, New York State. Literally, the worst is California. Their literacy is worse than ours. But then it's New York State. 77% literacy rate in New York State. It's not the lowest, it isn't. It's 49th. Most recently I saw we were 38th. This is from a couple years back. So we're like 40th to 40th, depending on how you decide literacy. Again, literally, my mayor 2 years ago said, we're gonna start teaching our kids to read. I'm not making that up. Michael says Trump wants a Nobel Peace Prize. I agree. And if he were able to end with a peace treaty that both sides were happy with in both Ukraine and in Israel/Gaza, he would deserve it. I'm not sure we can get either this year. Anyone can, it's him. Why? Because he's transactional. He wants a deal made. I don't think he cares about the fighting in Ukraine itself. People often look upon it as a bad thing. In this case, I think it's a good thing. He just wants a deal made. He wants the Nobel Peace Prize. If he can get both the Gaza-Israel peace treaty made, where both sides are satisfied, and Ukraine-Russia peace made, where both sides are satisfied, give it to him. That's not going to be easy. Michael's going to say, because Obama got one. Maybe he is petty. That's possible. But again, I don't care. I'm okay with that. Let him be petty. Be petty. Just get it done. I'm good. Dave says, Democrats should have had an actual plan. Yes. raising taxes, banning guns, sex change for minors doesn't work anymore. Well, raising taxes still works. People like the raising tax on the rich thing. Democrats still enjoy that, right? They still like that idea. You can still do that. The banning gun parts, they like that too. Democrats like banning guns, right? Dave, I'm not, obviously I don't agree with that, but I'm trying to be realpolitik, if that makes any sense. Democrats like banning guns. They like raising tax taxes. It's also on the rich. They like that. Brought the third part, the sex changes for minors. Donald Trump, as much as I don't like it, has dominated the culture wars and broken them. If you are a Democrat and you start fighting on culture war, you're finished. And sadly, some Democrats only know virtue signaling and culture war, and they are going to suffer. They're going to suffer. You mentioned three things: raising taxes, banning guns, sex change. Banning guns is neutral. It's not really a culture war. Others. Sex change is definitely a culture war. If you're a Democrat, leave that alone. You don't have to change your view on it. Just stop talking about it. You're going to lose. It's not winning. I know some of you are like, but Larry, these things matter. Okay, but you're not going to win the election to make the change. I do this all the time when it comes to libertarians. They get mad at me when I don't push their issue. So I go into a city and I don't lead with the Second Amendment. People get mad. You got to push the Second Amendment. I have an idea. Shut up. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. When I go into a city, I don't lead with that. It doesn't change my view on it. Just because your number one issue is Second Amendment doesn't mean everyone else's is. It doesn't change my view on it. I am still the most pro-Second Amendment candidate New York State will ever have. Not even close. The most they will ever have. It doesn't change my view. I'm not going to lead with that. I go into a city, I'm going to lead with things like MTA. It's the city. I lead with that. Localism matters. Does it mean all of a sudden I don't care about that? No, of course. If they ask me, I give them the answer. I always give them the answer that I believe in. Always. It's always on my website. It's always who I am. So I'm not saying you as a Democrat should change your view on whatever you think for gender issues. I'm saying stop leading with it. If they ask you about it, answer it. Don't lead with it. Lead with things like raising taxes, because Democrats love when you raise taxes on the poor. Poor. They don't like that. They like when you raise them on the rich. So Bernie said it. Cut the cap so the billionaires pay the money. They eat that up. That's red meat to Democrats. Give it to them. They don't show up. I hope that answers your question, Pete, on how they can come back from this. Democrats can come back from this, and eventually they will. Shin says, this is an extreme example. This is not representative of the average relationship. Sadly, it is of the new relationships. If you're under 30, this is becoming more and more common. You're worried how you look on TikTok more than you're worried about who your partner is. This is extreme. This woman is a sociopath. She goes on to say, no, this is having respect for women's sign of progress. That's not what this is about. No, Shin, you're completely wrong on this. You're totally wrong. This is not about having respect for women. This is about a woman having respect for a man. I'm not saying she should date this guy. She could have easily sent him an email, had a phone call, done this behind the scenes. There were many ways she could have done this. She did it publicly at the altar. That's a lack of respect for him. I see it. Women getting mad because men won't approach women. Because women will out you on social media and embarrass you. Just go on TikTok and look for women's content, and you will find them talking about the men they're dating all day, all night. It sounds crazy, Pete, but it's grossly simple. Just stop. Stop with the virtue signaling and come up with some actual plans. And I'll give you an example of what Bernie did. This is the part that I think does have some value here.
Legislation that I will be introducing tomorrow.
Bingo. Now, you may disagree with that act, but he's saying, we got to do this, and I'm putting it in tomorrow. Yeah, as you've heard me say, I don't know, 100 times during the show or more, when people are in trouble, they want an answer. If you don't have an answer, they're going to ignore you. The Republicans right now, Trump got every answer for everything. It's tariff this and fight this guy and get rid of that and Project 21. He got all the answers. What the Democrats got? Trump this is the wrong way. This is bad. Except Bernie. Bernie said, we're going to pass this act. Now, if I'm a Democrat, listen, I go, okay, we got a plan. We're going to do something. Okay, I'm in.
No, we are not going to cut Social Security. Quite the contrary. We must expand Social Security benefits and extend its solvency for the next 75 years by scrapping the cap that allows a billionaire.
Now, do you hear that? Now, you may not like that plan, but he can go, this is what most Democrats did. They went, he's just talking Medicare. He hates old people. He wants to kill your grandma. Done. He said, you got to do Orange Man bad, because Democrats do love that. So he said, we're not going to do that. Orange Man's bad. And they went, yay. And then he said, and then we're going to do it by beating the billionaires up, by getting rid of the cap. Okay, that's an answer. If I'm a Democrat, I go, oh, I got some answers. My question is, Bernie, where you been? Andrew says, I made it. Love the AMAs more than anything. Now, first question. Every ideology has its weaknesses. No exception. No. Libertarian is perfect. Okay. If you could point out, what would you say the weakness of libertarianism? There's a lot of them, actually. The number one weakness to libertarianism, number one, is that most libertarians communicate in a way that comes across as being selfish. That is the number one problem that libertarianism has. Number one weakness is most come across as being selfish. They don't talk about the community. They don't talk about helpfulness. An example I often give is I'll go to an event where I'll be speaking, and it'll be all libertarians, and I'll say, how many of you here are against universal health care? All the hands go up. And I go, so if I gave you a plan that was voluntary and market-based and it covered everybody, you'd be against it? Yeah, you're not against universal health care. What you're against is single government monopoly health care. That's what you're against. But you don't communicate that way. You communicate the way that they want you to communicate, which is, I'm against universal health care, which makes it sound like you want old people to die. That is our biggest weakness, without question, is that we communicate as a whole, not all of us, but as a whole, I wouldn't even say not all of us, the vast majority of us communicate in a way that sounds selfish. Number two, most libertarians, and this is again, vast majority, I mean like 80%, only care about virtue signaling. They do not care about making impact. They don't care about changing someone's mind. They don't care about anyone liking them. None of that. They only care about virtue signaling. So if I say, hey, I have a plan to fix this thing that is libertarian, they won't go, great idea, Larry. They'll go, that's not libertarian enough. Why is the government this? I got to tell you how bad you are. They will use virtue signaling. And they have confused virtue signaling with righteousness. So what they'll say, you hear libertarians all the time say, I had to call it out. I had to be honest. Be very clear. Every one of you libertarians who says, my job is to be honest. No, it isn't. You made your job up. Your job isn't that. No one pays you for that. Stop. That's not your job. You made it up. You're self-righteous, number one. Number two, they'll say, I had to point it out. No, you didn't. You didn't have to. You chose to because you want to be self-righteous. And it's okay. You can. You don't have to keep your mouth shut. You can call things out. I'm not saying you can't. With the First Amendment, I support it. You can. But stop acting like you had to. You didn't have to. You chose to because you're self-righteous, because you want to virtue signal. Remember something, all you libertarians out there. You have a choice. You can at any time you want. Shut your mouth. That's a choice you can make. You don't have to. First Amendment, say what you want to say. But you have an option to say and not to say. If you remember, when Milei took over a year ago, I did a whole show on this, about over a year ago. I said, please, shut up. Give the man a year. And I said nothing about him for a year. I didn't like him either. I said nothing. I kept my mouth shut until a year. I could have been attacking things he didn't like. I could have been. I didn't. I chose to shut my mouth. So I practiced what I preach. I didn't like Chase Oliver's campaign last year. I didn't like it at all. I thought it wasn't going to work. There was a failed campaign. Now, when I was campaigning against him with Lars, I said so. Once he got the nomination, what did I do? I shut up. I could have been attacking him. Oh, his campaign's bad. By the way, I like Chase personally. I think he's a good guy himself. He's a good libertarian. I don't care what people say. If you attack Chase, you're wrong. He's a good libertarian. His campaign and his plan was garbage. And I said that off the bat. His plan was garbage. It was doomed to fail. And it did. But did I say that during the campaign? It's garbage. She's embarrassing us. No, I could have. I shut up. So libertarians could learn that sometimes you can just shut up and go live your life and let stuff go. Stop being so damn self-righteous. Stop trying to virtue signal all the time. Stop acting like you're so damn selfish. I hope I answered your question.
What are your thoughts then on these education savings accounts and these scholarships where families can get some of the tax dollars, and rather than putting their kid in a public school, they can then take them to a private school or homeschool them using tax dollars that they otherwise might not, as a middle or low class person, they wouldn't otherwise have the financial resources. Libertarians are mixed on that approach. What are your thoughts on it?
I actually would rather have a system similar to, when it comes to paying for schools, similar to Singapore or similar to Norway, which is a sovereign fund. I think sovereign funds are the right way of doing it. Socialism is wonderful when it's someone else's money, and sovereign funds are literally that. So New York State should create what I call the New York State Social Trust, that and then pay directly to the actual school districts per child. My number is 18,000, but I'm open to change that number with a $6,000 credit to anyone who wants to either homeschool or who wants to go to private school. I don't want to end communities. And as you know, very often kids who go to private school or homeschool are separated from all the other kids. If you homeschool your kid or private school your kid, you should still be able to use the local school facilities, being a football team, being a math club, library services, all those things anyway, so you can keep the community together. That's just my view.